Okay, well, we are into the main part of tonight's show, and we are back with the Schapelle Corby case, having done a first attempt to grapple with the information about 3 weeks ago. I went away and I did a whole lot of study. I've read dozens and dozens of articles. I've watched dozens of mainstream media, television interviews, investigative pieces. I've basically just squeezed the internet dry, trying to understand this case. And there is quite a lot of information out there, but as with many issues that we've explored on Truth News, information and disinformation and misinformation can be all mixed together, and the sheer quantity of it can make it hard to know what is going on. You know, you read one thing and you think one thing, you read something else and then you think something else, and you just, in the end, get so confused that you don't know what to think.
Well, that's right. And the mainstream population generally just watches one show on Channel 7 and the mind's made up.
They do. Thank you very much for that, Josh. You're absolutely right. And I'd just now like to offer a very warm welcome to our guest, Sean Hatton, who's talking to us from Darwin. Sean is Schapelle Corby's uncle, and he has been doing all he can to firstly clear Schapelle's name and get her out, because that's the key thing here. I mean, this is a person suffering a horrendous situation, and Sean has certainly convinced me on a gut level of his sincerity, as did Roy, that we have a miscarriage of justice here. And Sean, I'd just like at this point to say, thanks so much for coming on the show. Are you there?
Yes, thank you very much, Haywood.
Terrific. Look, as I was saying, you've really put so much work into trying to I guess, address this problem with logic, with facts, and you've helped me to understand a lot of things. You've steered me in the right direction, but we have, at the moment, a major problem. Okay, we've got a major problem in Australia with, and this is something that we cover on this show, and we're familiar with it. But your case is one of the most shocking examples of mass media control of public opinion that I think I've ever seen. And I mean, if you'd like to pick that up and run with it, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, what you're saying is exactly right. But to tell people that it's happening, and people just don't believe it. They just sort of think that it's just not possible that anyone would want to do this. But
absolutely,
to keep Australian interests with Indonesia certainly trumps Schapelle's human rights. So
indeed. Now, look, I'd just like to, before we get into some of the subjects today, which are going to be a bit complicated, I want to just summarise where we're at from the last show I did, and some points that we can be absolutely clear on. Because it's very important to be clear about what we can be clear on. Is that from the point of view of legal principles and the legal principles on which this country runs, there is so much reasonable doubt in regard to the guilt of Schapelle Corby that there is no way she would have been convicted, and if she was convicted, it would have been overturned on appeal, because there were so many failures of due diligence and due process in terms of the way the prosecution handled the case. And we'll just summarise those very quickly. No forensic evidence, no fingerprinting evidence, no investigation of any drug connections on either side, or at least no produced results from an investigation that could show that there was any connection sending marijuana from Australia to Bali, and no arrests, not even any suspects in terms of that alleged drug connection, simply, and no investigation even of the travelling companions that Schapelle was with, as if they didn't even matter. No fingerprinting of her travelling companions, no investigation even of what might have been in the other suitcases she was carrying. so many different things that are normally done in any proper investigation were not done. The only piece of evidence, the single piece of evidence that the prosecution relied on was the fact that when she opened her boogie board bag, the marijuana was there in a transparent plastic bag in full view. Like, all you had to do was open the zipper and there it was. And that was it. That was the prima facie case, and they themselves refused to fingerprint the bag. They handled the bag before they should have, so that would have contaminated fingerprints, and they refused requests from Schapelle Corby's defence team to have the marijuana analysed and to have DNA samples analysed from the marijuana in the bag.
And of course, that's all their evidence. That's the prosecution evidence.
Yeah. This is a
been
massive amount of potentially incriminating evidence that when a person says, I'm not guilty, the onus then is on the prosecution to prove by all these other measures that the person is guilty. Normally, when a person is caught carrying a whole lot of drugs into a country, they confess because they know they're guilty, right? And if they are guilty, there is going to be all other ways that can be proven, right? So when someone says, I'm not guilty, the prosecution then has to say, well, you are, and we've proven it in all these ways. Well, they didn't. All they said was, there's the bag, it was in your bag, you're guilty. That was it.
That's their total case, except for a couple of lying court officials, and the customs officials and Bali police.
Indeed. Now, Sean, I've got lined up here the interview that Liz Hayes did with Schapelle in 2004, and a lot of people may not have listened to that, so I'd like to actually just play that, because I certainly had not heard it, and it's very important, I think, to hear a person in their own words, because in a court case, that's very important for a jury. It's always very important in any kind of, to form a judgment, is to hear what the person themselves said. And, this whole thing with Schapelle has been a trial by media. We know that. I know that's wrong. But we now have to continue that. We can't just turn our back on that, because public opinion has been so influenced by everything that they've seen. So I want to go back now. Let's wind the clock back to December 2004 when this interview was conducted. And here you're going to listen to Schapelle speaking directly, just answering questions very directly about what happened. Here we go.
I shouldn't be here.
Can you believe it?
No, I can't. All I can do is try to adapt as best I can.
Schapelle, the death penalty is a reality. You know that, don't you?
Yeah, I know that. But hopefully it won't get to the prosecutors are actually at the point now to decide whether it's 20 years or life.
20 years of life.
Which to me, it's like, what's the use of me trying to survive these days anyway?
It's been reported in the Australian press that the customs officer who challenged you about the drugs said that you, in his opinion, behaved very nervously.
He barely looked at me. I opened them myself.
He said that you were reluctant
to open it. He didn't even ask me to open it. He said to my brother, "Is that your bag? Is that your boogie board?" I'm going, "Ah, yay, I'm so happy. Oh, it's mine. Hey, here you go. Whee." Yep, that's mine.
He felt that you were acting almost suspiciously.
No. And then I wasn't sure if he'd seen it, but I knew I was going to be in trouble anyhow, whether he's seen it or whether it's been planted there and someone's waiting for me to go outside, then they're going to get me outside. So I was going to be in trouble either way.
You didn't try and conceal
No.
what was in your boogie board?
Well, I didn't know if he saw it. I opened it and then I closed it.
So you unzip it?
I unzipped it. He didn't even ask me to. I did it myself, and I opened it and I've gone. And I saw it and I was like, oh my God, I'm in trouble. And then they did a little test and it came in purple, and then they came to me and it says,